and welcome to a brief workshop on safer dating. It isn't safe dating because nothing and no one can keep you absolutely 100% safe all your life. It is not possible. You could be as good and obedient and compliant with every bit of advice as there is, and you can still get killed by a frozen block of piss falling out of an aeroplane as you're walking up the road. It has happened, not often, but it does happen. And the other thing about dating safely is that some of the advice you get given about how to stay safe in dating basically kippers all your fun. It isn't necessary, it's paranoia reinforcing, and it isn't any fun. Has anybody got any examples of shit victim blaming dating advice they've heard? I haven't noticed. No.
What did you expect wearing that low-cut top?
Yeah, shit like that, victim blaming. Don't drink too much. Don't go out alone if you're female or female presenting. I have to say, I've done all the things they tell you not to do. Every single one of them. I've gone out alone, I've got pissed, I've gone out wearing revealing clothes, I've gone home with strange people. I have not suffered a severe sexual assault. And this isn't because I'm special, cleverer than the rest of you, or tougher than the rest of you. I've been lucky. I haven't met an abuser. Because the key factor in what causes harm in dating is the presence of a bad person. Now, there are ways to avoid getting lumbered with a bad person. Again, not 100%. If somebody's really determined to do terrible things, non-consensual terrible things, they're going to find a way to do it. There are a few indicators that somebody might be bad news that you can follow and which may help. If you start, basically, as an old wise pervert friend of mine once said to me, if you are uncomfortable with somebody fully dressed in a public place, for fuck's sake, don't go somewhere private and get naked. But even if you did that and they hurt you, that would still not be your fault, but you might prevent that happening by going, no, I don't feel right around you, I'm going to have a sudden emergency and leave. Because if you're wrong, if the person's nice but awkward, the worst thing that's happened is you missed out on what might have been a bit of fun. And you can... Now, there are some bits of advice about how to keep yourself safe when you're meeting a new person for the first time, which are excessively paranoid. One of the worst ones I ever saw was actually on FetLife. I don't know who posted it, I can't remember. But it was along the lines of, before you agree to meet this person, you want to see a photo ID, proof of where they work, and their car number plate. Fuck off. You're not that good alone. You're really not. No one is, not even me. I wouldn't concede to give that much information to a stranger. Because the other thing to think about is, like, if the new person that you have been chatting to online and you want to meet, if they're not a monster or a murderer, like spiders, they're just as scared as you are. Because there are other things to fear as well as being assaulted. Anybody name some of the things that might put you off giving all your information to another person?
Ending up in the Daily Mail.
Yes. Or them hacking your bank accounts, or phoning up your employer or your mum. You don't know for sure that, it's like, okay, I'm a girl, I'm scared of evil men. But men might go, well, she might tell lies about me, she might be after my money, she might be a bunny-boiling maniac. And even if you are the one who is bigger and stronger, you can still suffer at the hand of somebody with bad intentions. But again, most people haven't got bad intentions. They might be tiresome, they might not be appealing to you. It might just not be a good fit, but big deal. You've wasted a couple of hours of your time sitting with a boring person. And then you've gone home and no harm done and you forget about it. There are a few basic precautions that are sort of across the board with online vanilla dating, which is meet in a public place, maybe tell someone where you're going, meet in a vanilla public place with lots of other people around. And a big red flag is if somebody doesn't want to do that. So, oh no, come to my house, or I'll come to your house. If they're not dangerous, stupid. They are socially inept. They don't know why these are the universal rules of online dating. And you don't listen. Hello, come in, sit down, fine.
not being late
that is a
for
camera,
date.
so
Okay,
can't
thank
look
you.
behind it. So, yeah, if somebody's not going to follow the most basic rules and doesn't seem to care that you're a bit uncomfortable or a bit wary, then they're not going to be any fun. As I say, they're either stupid or they do have bad intentions. Basic safety tips if you're going to do a lot of online dating and meeting strangers. One of my favourite ones is have a burner phone. You know what a burner phone is? It's a cheap shit piece of phone with a different SIM card in. And you can get SIM cards in the pouch. And you put a $5 worth of credit on them. And if you happen to encounter somebody who you've given that phone number to and they are a pest, you take the SIM card out and burn it and put a new one in for the next round of dates. You only give someone your actual phone number or your Facebook when you are reasonably comfortable with them.
Can I just throw in on that? With a lot of the messaging apps nowadays, particularly Telegram, the one that LAM use a lot, you can literally just have a username. You non-disclose your telephone number. You can make and receive calls to each other, and all they know is you are at Cosmic LAM.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, if you're going to want to make phone calls, you could. A burner phone is not a bad idea generally, as a safety precaution. And despite what John Baku says, he's having his ass kicked around the block for it. FetLife's like, we're going to vary everyone's ID. No, you're not, you fucker, because everyone will run away. Because people have lots of perfectly good reasons for not wanting to share their close personal details. I mean, I'm sure you can all think of them. People who, while adults, still live with their parents, who don't need to know what they get up to. Anyone who's got a dodgy ex who might use it as a weapon against them in a custody. Other practical ones. Who's heard of Angela? Ask for Angela. Yeah, that's a really, really good idea. And in fact, fetish clubs, I think, should use it if they don't already. So you go to the bar, you say, is Angela on tonight? Whether there's if you're a bar person and your name actually is Angela, you may get a bit of extra work, but the purpose of the Ask for Angela is like, this is a way of going, I'm not happy with this date, I feel uneasy, uncomfortable, I need someone to have my back. Even though mostly in a public place, a date, however nefarious, is not going to do anything too dire, but if you're really feeling bad about it and you want someone to call you a cab and escort you out the back door, Ask for Angela does that, yes.
Just to let you know, and again, I don't know what the code word is going to be yet, but there is about to be an upgrade to Ask Angela connected with date rape drugs. Because they've recognised that if you're in a bar and you go up and say, I need to speak to Angela, it's going to be something like, I'm feeling unwell, or tell Angela I'm feeling unwell, and that will then activate a completely separate strategy where you will be taken off and given medical attention and all the rest. So literally it only came out this week.
Okay, that's an interesting one. I mean, to an extent, there is all that stuff like the colour changing nail varnish to keep you safe from rohypnol. To be honest, it's security theatre, it's paranoia, it's not that effective because most ill-intentioned people know that a couple of double vodkas in your drink will be just as effective and not technically illegal, not so hard to acquire. And somebody spiked my drink once, but I ran away, kicked out. But in a general way, indications that somebody is dodgy in conversation, people will sometimes show that they're not very nice, and they might just be boorish, and you don't fancy them. Always watch how someone treats service staff. How do they treat the bar staff, the cabbie, the ticket collector on the underground? If they are rude and dismissive, if they snap their fingers at the waiter, this person's probably a dick. Even if there's a bit of you, if you are submissive, that gets quite turned on by that, that's the way for them to treat you in consensual scene space. It is not a way that anyone should treat service staff who are just doing their jobs. And one of my friends, a writer called Ishmael Skies, he calls it dom-tox, dominant toxemia. People who are very dominant but start feeling that the rest of the world is their son. A lot of the cases, people who behave like that are actually, they're just dickheads. They're not predators. They don't want to keep you in the cellar and kill you and make a party hat out of your skin. They're just dickheads. And again, you don't need dickheads. People who talk a lot about resolving differences with physical violence. You know, if somebody who's full of stories about how somebody got in their face and they flattened them, it's like, probably not someone you want to disagree with. Though another good test of whether somebody is possibly not going to be any fun is to disagree with them. Don't start a fight for the sake of it, but if they can be something completely harmless, what's your favourite Star Trek film? Something like that. And if they say, no, this one's the best one, and you know, well, actually, I don't agree, I think that one's the better one, and they get arsey, again, this is a person that's probably not going to be a great deal of fun to spend time with. If you are getting to the point where you are comfortable enough with this person to want to play with them, it's not a bad idea to make your first play date a club play date, unless you're really uncomfortable with public play. But a sort of soft core play date in a club means, is this person responsive to your needs? Do you actually feel compatible with them? It's very important to remember all the time that you don't owe anyone a date, play, time or attention. And sometimes a person who is a perfectly okay person, their kinks don't fit with yours. And it's a good habit to get into, to say, like, this isn't working for me. I'd rather do this instead of that. Is that okay? Or, look, can we just stop? I'm not feeling in the mood. Again, don't invent problems to test people, because people don't like it. When it comes to like precautions and checking with people, think about how you'd feel if someone was doing that to you. Would you? Reasonable precautions like, yeah, I understand why you're doing that. Playing sort of tricks on you, messing you around to see how you react. It isn't very nice to feel like a guinea pig. It's always the fact that when you're starting to date, negotiate with somebody, starting to play with somebody, that's a person too. That's a person with vulnerabilities and fears and needs, and you are testing each other out all the way through. Disclosing of various types of personal information come when you have a degree of trust with somebody. Even things like, you know, if your gender, if your body doesn't match quite with your gender identity, then you might want to talk to somebody about this before you actually get to the pants down moment. But you don't have to tell them if you're just having a coffee, if you'd rather not, if you're not sure who this person is, how they're going to treat you. And things like SDI status, you don't need to disclose that when you're just having a coffee. You need to feel that the person is not going to run back, oh, guess what, so-and-so's got a clap. You need to feel comfortable with other people to tell them things. And if everyone's a human being, the vast majority of the human beings that we're going to interact with are not that dangerous. They might be a bit rude, they might be a bit clumsy occasionally, they might be a little bit careless, but there is no way of absolutely guaranteeing complete safety, except that most people are really okay. If somebody isn't making you comfortable, have we got poltergeists in there? That's another thing I can't know of to keep you safe from poltergeist activity.
I can get rid of the tinkling, but it means turning the AC on.
That's all right. I think we need the AC because it's a little warm in here. Okay, do we have any questions or interesting aspects? Yes?
There's a question or a thought. One thing to perhaps keep an eye out for is differences between what somebody might have said in online conversation and how they present if you meet them in real life.
Yeah.
Because some of these someone can be very good writing messages, but then turn out different. And that difference in itself is an interesting thing to just note.
Yes, somebody can write really hot fantasies about what they'd like to do to you online, and when you turn up, it's like, I'm going to do all this elaborate rope bondage with you, and actually, I'm never tied a knot in my life.
It's not necessarily just that, but also if somebody might be able to come across as very agreeable, agreeing with things, but if they then, when you disagree in person, suddenly snap or become angry, then that's if they show a very different personality.
And congruous behaviour.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the ways I like to look at this, and if I can beg your indulgence a second, we're all going out for a curry, okay? and we're going to start at the mild end of the spectrum, and we're going to work up to Vindaloo. So, the mildest possible curry, who's going for that? Okay. Who's up for a madras?
That's a bit of a leap.
Well, no, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll explain more in a second. Okay, so mild curry, korma, madras, maybe a Rogan Josh in the middle.
Yeah.
Then we'll go up to kind of Vindaloo, Ceylon, Fal, Bangalore, and what's. But the point is, you all put your hands up at different times, because just as with food, we all have different risk profiles that we're comfortable and happy with. So if you're one of those people that you're going to worry about all of the details, then it's better to pre-mortem and do all of that safety stuff well in advance. Okay? Because it might be a case of, I know we're only meeting at Starbucks for coffee, but I would rather have at least your genuine first name. Some people want a surname or various bits to meet I'm comfortable doing this level. And if you always have those boundaries set for you as individuals, then you look after your own safety from that respect. And you can say, actually, what I'm comfortable with is this. And I might say, oh, Zach, come on, let's meet for a coffee. Now, as we carry on talking, Zach is going, yeah, we're going to meet for coffee, and then I'm going to go to this hotel room afterwards. And if I'm going, I'm not comfortable with that myself, then actually it's that, again, being congruous behaviour. You've said yes to a coffee, and now you're pushing for a rope bondage section or some spanking or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, hang on a minute, am I comfortable stepping over that line at this stage, or do I want to say, we're going to meet for coffee, that's where I've set it. Yeah. If we get on well, then we might possibly arrange a second date or whatever from there. So
This is one of the other things about not being too paranoid. If it's going really, really well, it's like, okay, let's go off to club whatever together. Let's do that. Let's have fun. I mean, sometimes if you feel that the risk is worth taking, then you take the risk. If it turns out badly, it still isn't your fault, because that could have been a nice person. You felt it was a nice person. Also, sometimes shit happens. You go off and you have some fun, and one of you falls down the stairs, and that's nobody's fault.
The first public event I went to many, many years ago, Dress Park 20, was actually with someone I'd met the night before in a pub. And she walked up and gone, oh my God, you look crazy and weird, what are you into? And I'm like, pink. I love tying people up and spanking them, I'm a naughty person. Oh my God, tell me all about it. And literally, we'd agreed to meet up, and we went to a fetish shopping event the next day, and ended up going on to Cirque du Soleil because I had tickets. But it was comfortable and natural, and in fact, if anyone, it was her pushing more than me, because at the end of the first date, she's like, "Ooh, yeah, we can meet next Friday, but it's not a good weekend for me, if you know what I mean." And I'm like, "Sweetie, that's phenomenally presumptuous," but it kind of works. So
sometimes it does. I mean, a long time ago, I used to be a journalist in Forum magazine, which I think some of you are probably too young to remember, and I had a fan letter once. I had a few fan letters, but this was a specific one where he said, I'd really like to meet you and have a drink and a chat with you. You can bring a friend with you if you want. And I thought, well, that suggests to me that this is a nice person. It doesn't mean me any harm. So I said, all right. I said, I'll meet you in the Intrepid Fox in Wardour Street, because at the time it was a regular haunt of mine and I knew the bar staff. I thought, if this guy turns out to be weird, I can just run up to the bar and say, I'd like to be weird, and they'll get rid of him. Well, not bury him in the foundations or anything, but they would have, like, distracted him.
It's got that reputation, didn't it?
Well,
The
Fox was lovely.
I love it.
Scarf was smashing, yeah. So anyway, I also agreed with my editor that I would give him a ring after 2 hours in the office to say that it was all right, and if she hadn't heard from me within 3 hours, she should perhaps give the Fox a call and see what had happened, if anything. As it was, perfectly nice chap. Very engaging. I rang Liz after a couple of hours and said, he's fine, he's nice, he's harmless. And we ended up going out for dinner and out for more drinks, and we didn't get up to anything with each other. We weren't that way compatible. We had a lovely tipsy evening talking a lot of bollocks to each other, and that was all along. It was like, okay, I do not feel threatened in any way by this individual. So it was okay to go on to the next step and the next step. all life involves a certain amount of risk, no matter what you do. And there is unfortunately a bit of a tendency on particularly FetLife at the moment to think that you can spy, harass, stalk, over fear everything, and that it keeps everyone safe. So, no, it doesn't. If you have too much intrusion and spying, then nobody feels safe. And also the really villainous can always find a way round no matter what precautions you take.
On that note, I'm going to be slightly controversial and say, in the 20 odd years I've been around, there's not been a single group who've come out and said, we're the safe people, we do all of this.
Who haven't been raging fucking arseholes.
Absolutely! Now, the difference is sometimes it takes 3 weeks, and sometimes it takes 4 to 5 years for people to realise what massively raging arseholes they are. But there is not a single group of these that I'm going to be bold and say globally, because this concept started in San Francisco with consent culture, and that lot, I got, excuse my French, one of them attempted to peg me rather violently on one occasion because I'm a bad man and I'd said something that they disagreed with and I needed to be taken down. The person wasn't even in the fucking country at the time, and this was when we didn't live stream the workshop, so they'd heard a second-hand piece of information and we needed to be taken out because we were no longer the safe people. Now,
and if you think about it again, almost everything about kink relationships has its counterpart in the vanilla world. Kink, we may do some different things, but we're not actually fundamentally different human beings from golfers or chihuahua breeders or ballet dancers. You know, the core of human interaction is very much the same. So when you get people, it's like, we can sell you this product that will keep you safe. Or all you have to do is do everything we say and we'll keep you safe, like religions and government. You know, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. When it's like, we're going to install this camera to track your movements. Yeah, that isn't the kind of help I want. So the key thing is really use your wits when you're out and about. Think about, how do I feel? Do I feel that this person is a nice person? Is this person scaring me? And sometimes after a sub, it's like, yeah, but I like being scared. It's like, yeah, maybe think a little bit about that. This person who's a bit scary might be a tremendously good playmate. But there comes a point when the scary is like, this isn't quite such an exciting scariness. This is an uncomfortable, this is too far, I don't like it. And always the thing to do with that is say, look, I don't like it, I'm not comfortable. If the person doesn't back off, touch them in the face and run. In a general way, actually, a bit of martial arts is not a bad thing to have done a little bit of martial arts classes, though it can make you overconfident. It's not going to do you any good against a shotgun. But the thing that good martial arts training will do for you is it teaches you how to read a bit of body language, it teaches you how to be aware of your own body, and it can get you over the panic response. And for most of us, non-consenting violent attacks are rare. So we think, oh, nobody's going to fuck me. If somebody does get up in your face and gets aggressive and scary, an awful lot of people might freeze. But a certain amount of a little bit of martial arts can help you overcome that freeze response. But it isn't for everybody. I mean, your ability, aptitude, your physical ability might be variable.
In that regard, I just recommend, I think, because I study martial arts,
I
think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one that's often touted as being very good, especially for women, in terms of it's one of the few martial arts where technique can make up for the discrepancy in size and weight. So it's one that's based on sort of joint manipulation and blocks, and that can be very, very helpful for someone who's a bit smaller going up against the guy who's maybe
a lot of the jiu-jitsu and so on is about using the bigger opponent's weight against them, like flip them over and so on. So that isn't a bad thing, but basically a degree of alertness. I mean, I'm not saying don't get pissed and see what happens, because sometimes it's fun. And it also, again, it does not mean that it's your fault if something bad happens to you. We don't have to live our lives in a constant state of hyper-aware surveillance. That isn't healthy for anyone. Because most people are basically okay. I think...
One I was going to just chuck in. If you don't have a kinky friend who can make a safe call for you, technology has come to our answer. There are websites where you literally can put your phone number in and say, give me a safe call at precisely this time, and it will do that. Okay. But if you are going to set up safe calls and have friends you make safe calls for you, please make sure that you answer your phone. Okay? There is nothing worse than being asked to do it and getting to the stage of digging out your car keys because you're about to steam across London because they're not answering the phone.
They're like a post-orgasmic blissed out puddle.
And it's usually the case. Yeah. So just be sensible about it.
Charge your fucking phone battery.
Yes. Charge your phone battery is an absolute essential. And also, make sure you're going to a place with phone reception. It seems really crazy and small and simple in nowadays where we just expect everywhere to be fully covered in 5G and anti-COVID stickers and all that. But it's one of those. There are still parts of this world where phones just don't work.
And if you have said to your potential safe call, I'm going to meet this person for a coffee for a couple of hours, and you then decide this person is so nice and so appealing that you're in fact going to go into a hotel room or something and get up to things, you then phone your safe call and say, hi, I'm going off to get laid. Give me another 2.5 hours before you panic. Or just a quick text, hi, all's well, call you later. So actually, if you're doing that, it is better to phone your safe call because everybody who's seen crime scene programs knows that the one who, you might be the son being told to rub the lotion into
Absolutely.
the murderer took your phone and sent the text, and you might actually be in the cellar being told to rub the lotion into your skin or get the hose. But, yes.
There are also some apps on various phones that will effectively do a safety sharing of your location if you haven't checked in within a certain amount of time. So some come with your phones.
Yeah. So again, use those with caution because sometimes you might be out on a date and the person that you're out on a date with is lovely, but somebody at home is potentially more dangerous than the person you're meeting. Yeah. So again, you have to take into account your own or the person you're dating might have a dodgy person in the house that they need to be careful what information is shared with them.
But there are technology can help you a bit to do things that are perhaps not as visible as a safe call, but can still send out a signal.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you want to say now? All right. Okay. I think that will do. I hope I've given you a little to think about, and best of luck out there.
One I'm going to actually say, a tip that it's a difficult one because it's what the good part of the community is about. Go out and socialise and talk to people, okay? And generally, if you're looking for information on someone, don't walk up and say, oh my God, you know this person. Is he safe to play with? Okay? Because if I ask you, you're clearly a friend by proximity, and I'm going to get a friend's response. Okay? Now, if I go up and I say, how do you know this person? And you go, we only met last week. That's one critical piece of information. New person, met recently. This person's opinion on this person is 1 week old. Okay? So I've got more information by asking a non-question or a non-simple question that I'm looking for. Okay, so now we've only known each other for a week, and now you're going to give me another piece of information. We met at the bus stop. Okay, that's unusual. You didn't meet in a kinky context, so you might actually be very, very new to this kink. So I'm going to, at this stage, be treating you with a little bit of caution, but I'm still going to be open and engaging, but I'm not going to be sitting there thinking, this is the ultimate dom who's been in the lifestyle for 15 years, and you know what, he could probably tie a TK with his eyes closed. Okay, Ask indirect questions that will give you information rather than a yes or a no answer.
If you're new, rely on your gut instinct much more than on community gossip, because half the time the person offering references is actually going to say, oh no, I'll be your protector. You don't need to talk to this other person, and you do not know what if you're new, you don't know what agendas people have. There are loads of people on the scene who are like, oh, I'm protector of the newbies. Every single thread on FetLife about how to protect newbies ends up with man-dogs screaming at each other, I'm the protector, you're the predator. No, you're the predator, I'm the protector. And everything else gets lost in the noise. And people will settle scores that way. People settle scores with gossip and rumour. Make your own judgment within reason, but make friends. Make actual friends. Fuck appointing a protector in the club. You don't need that, you need mates. You need to make several different friends. If you are on your own in your first ever club and something is upsetting you, go to the crew, go to the staff. Not the random bloke nursing a pint looking at you speculatively.
If I like people and I happen to spot from across the room that someone who I really know is a piece of bad news is hanging around, I might go over and say, hey, be a little bit careful about that. Just make your own mind up, but do a little bit more due diligence than you would necessarily do in other contexts. Because I like the person and I don't want them to end up with Sir Domley Dom, who's got a reputation like crap. Now, you might actually be looking for that kind of person, but if I like the person, I'm going to give them a little bit of a gentle nudge and a heads up. If you're not building friendships in the community and building a network of people that you can talk to, that's a resource that you are going to be missing out on. Simple as that.
Although it takes time to do that, again, you can get stuck in whiny ass corner for the rest of your life, and that's not going to do you any favours. Yes, sir.
Can I just say, coming out of the pandemic, I mean, I don't, in normal times, I completely agree, but it's really, it's so easy to live a fantasy life online. People do. It's very good saying these things, but it's going to take a long time to build up friends. And I've gone out with people, and then you suddenly find they're married and stuff like that. And well, it's not a crime, but
yeah, if that's not what you were expecting and not what you were looking for, then it's not nice.
But I just think people live so much of their life online that they have a character online, literally, and then superimposing it into the real world is the biggest challenge, and it's just been more difficult.
Yeah. On the internet, nobody knows you're a dog.
The internet's fantastic. But I just don't know how you really do meet people you can trust. It's very difficult.
The answer is in person.
Just go to.
I mean,
yeah, I know, and you do, but you do want to waste an evening.
Well, you could, even if, say you met somebody via work.
It's not a question. I just think it's a real issue.
It is. Life is always going to be full of fucking challenges, no matter what.
I think try to get away from the word waste and see that you spend this time to find something out, to have something useful.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't turn out to, I mean, sometimes you spend some money on a meal that wasn't that great, but you still eat it.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you go on a blind date or two and you meet various wingnuts, if you didn't get a good time out of it, what you have got is fuel for interesting stories to tell your friends later. Approach every online date like that.
Too many of those. Too many of those.
It's like everything in life. If you only feel you learn from positive examples, you're missing 50% of the situations. Because actually, realistically, we learn best when things don't go right.
Yeah.
So you have a boring evening. You've been out at Wetherspoons and Sir Domley McFucknuts has been yapping on about how it's repetition and protocol all evening and you don't deviate from the protocol. You're bored fucking shitless. You come home and you think, God, that was a challenging evening. Don't rack it up as being wasted. Rack it up as right. What were the things and characteristics of that idiot that I should have picked up beforehand that I'm going to put on my thank you, no thank you list for the time for moving forward? Because,
for instance, you don't care for high protocol DS, which is fine. You go, no high protocol. So, anything it's like, if you're not into rope, you don't want to go Mr. Don Shibari.
Yeah.
And if you're all the things as about like specific kinks that do and don't work for everybody, they've got things like I've never tried this, but it looks interesting, and the difference between that and I've never tried this, no, not in a million years, no. So you don't date the people who are into that because you're not going to be a match. Okay, I think we can probably wrap that one up.
Again, thank you very much for
Thank
sharing
you.
your knowledge.
Thank you very much for coming. I forgot the candle, so I've been fidgeting and putting my nose all the way through. So
That's all right.
sorry, Laurie, lovely.
Just